We are only a few hours away for free agency legal tampering period beginning on Monday. And tonight, we'll talk about the reports about the Cowboys granting Michael Gallup permission to request and seek a trade more specifically. So tonight, we'll talk about that and we'll get into the final thoughts before free agency. Here we go. What is up, everyone, and welcome into ATC Sports Dallas Prime Time. I'm your host, Mauricio Rodriguez. As always, live with you, from Sunday through Thursday, 8 p.m. Central. A little bit out of whack because I have been tossed back into Mountain Time Zone with the daylight savings time change in the U.S. Didn't change in Mexico, so I'm doing this show at 7 p.m. my time, which is something that I was not used to now. I was originally used to that. Now we're doing 8 p.m. Now, later we're doing 8 p.m. and now I'm back to 7 p.m. But hey, I am happy to be here. Katharina, thank you for the question. I am feeling much better. Mark Aaron, man, damn it. That's a good one. I'll give you that one. I was watching the Oscars. It wasn't knowing the movie Twins with Arnold. Damn it. You got me there, Mark. You got me there. Shout out to everyone who is joining the show, whether you're watching the Oscars at the same time or maybe you're just tuning into prime time. Appreciate you taking the time. Tomorrow, free agency kicks off. Officially, it does so until Wednesday because that is more or less how the time frames work for this. So Wednesday, the contracts can be executed with players with, signing with a different team. But on Monday, the legal tampering period begins. And we all know that extra officially that has already begun, probably at the NFL scouting combine, because usually, and the official time is noon Monday Eastern time, where teams and players can begin talking to each other. And it's very funny how pretty much every year at 12:01 deals have been agreed to, even though there's only been 1 minute where they can legally negotiate. They just do it very fast, right? Or more likely they do it beforehand, even though it is not formally allowed. But anyways, that means that this is free agency week coming up on us, and hey, it's gonna be an interesting one for Dallas. Not necessarily in the fun way. Stephon Gilmore hits free agency. Tyler Viadish hits free agency. So does Tony Pollard, among other key players like Dorrance Armstrong, Dante Fowler Jr., and many other guys, while the Cowboys are promising the fan base that they're going all in with little evidence to show for it. And it also gets interesting because there are not a lot of cap casualty candidates for Dallas, but somebody like Michael Gallup has already been given permission to seek a trade. This report came through on Saturday evening via the Dallas Morning News. According to Calvin Watkins, Michael Gallup has been granted permission to seek a trade, which should be not a surprise at all for anybody who has been paying attention. Michael Gallup has been basically expected at this point to be cut by the Cowboys before the season. Why? Because he will make $8.5 million in salary in 2024 otherwise. And although the Cowboys wouldn't save too much money if they were to cut him pre-June 1st or designate him as a pre-June 1st cut, they would save a lot of money in the cap space if they are designating him as a post-June 1st cut. Now, that doesn't help out a lot for free agency or for the first few weeks of free agency, but it could provide the Cowboys some cap relief just in time for some extensions ahead of the regular season. And specifically with the Micah Parsons and the CeeDee Lamb stuff, I think that's more or less a time frame where those deals will get done. I think that's just the way that the Cowboys do business. And even if they do extend Dak Prescott too, apparently they're not doing it before free agency, right? Because that will start tomorrow. So it would seem like if the Cowboys get those extensions done, it will happen in the summer rather than in the spring. But let's talk about Michael Gallup. There's a big problem, obviously, with the reports about Michael Gallup being, given permission to look for a trade. The problem is that I don't know why a team would offer draft compensation or player compensation or compensation of any kind to trade for Michael Gallup. I think that Gallup is at a point right now that NFL teams understand he is being cut. So the only reason why you would trade for somebody on that context is if you want him bad enough to where you don't want to risk losing out on him or missing out on him in free agency, right? So take the Jacksonville Jaguars, for example, trading for Mac Jones today in a very weird and random trade, right? For the NFL world. Like, we didn't expect the Jaguars to be trading for Mac Jones, but chances are they were one of 4 teams reportedly that put in an offer. And chances are the offer was just because, they really liked him as a backup QB and they were not willing to risk missing out on him if he was to hit free agency. So that is the real only reason why you would trade for Michael Gallup. But even if you're doing a 6th rounder or a 7th rounder in return for Gallup, that's an expensive contract for somebody like him at this stage. Keep in mind, from week 8 on, Gallup only averaged a 42% snap count for the Cowboys when he was playing. He only had 2 games with over 3 catches in the 2023 season. There are serious concerns, in my opinion, about somebody like Michael Gallup, in the sense that I think there are a lot of teams that will be smart to target him is if he does become a free agent, or maybe I should say when he becomes a free agent, because I think that's the strong expectation at this moment. But I don't understand giving up draft compensation for him, especially because if you do bet on Gallup, it's probably a bet on his floor more than it is on his ceiling. Like, we've seen the best of Michael Gallup at this stage. It's about whether or not teams want maybe a wide receiver 4 that can win in certain one-on-one situations, right? Like the X receiver that he's been so far in his career, and hope for Gallup to maybe get closer to that 2019 version of himself, because he was fun, man. When Michael Gallup was at his pick, he was a fun player to watch. So I can see why some teams will be intrigued by him, but I don't see NFL teams being willing to give up draft compensation for him. And the additional problem to this conversation is the fact that in March 18th, there is a $4 million injury guarantee that vests on Michael Gallup's deal. So that feels like the final day that the Cowboys will have him on the roster. So it's not like teams got to wait out a month to get somebody like Gallup. They know that basically the Cowboys have a week to release him at this stage. So ultimately, I think the likeliest outcome for number 13 is that the Cowboys do release him as a post-June 1st cut. That will open up around $13 million, according to overthecap.com. And no, it's $9.5 million, excuse me, in June. And again, that money doesn't help the Cowboys for free agency, but it does help them for the contract extension period when that comes up. And however the Cowboys want to play around with the money, then around August or something like that. Bruce says, if we trade Gallup for a 5th rounder, I am gonna my pants. Oh, you're not getting a 5th rounder for Gallup. Personally, man, I'll make a parenthesis here in just a bit. Personally, I don't think the Cowboys are able to find a trade for him. But if they do, 6th rounder seems like a big W for me. Like, I would expect more of a 6th or a 7th rounder for somebody like Michael Gallup. But even then, like, is a team that is getting him reworking the deal, or what does that look like? Because I don't think the salary right now, I don't think the price tag for Michael Gallup justifies, or the production from Michael Gallup justifies the price tag. Better said, in my opinion, like that. But anyways, quick parenthesis. I was going to talk about Kendrick Bourne today. I was going to talk about why I would target Kendrick Bourne in free agency from the New England Patriots. That was like my guy. And 8 minutes ago, Andrew Callahan from the Boston Herald just reported that he was re-signed to a 3-year deal, $19.5 million. So that is not fun to me, because I wanted to talk about Kendrick Bourne. Like I had just tweeted out on my Twitter account, I'd sign Kendrick Bourne in free agency, to be honest. Well, that's gone now. That is gone now. Mark Aaron says Judy was traded for a 5th and a 6th. That should tell you more or less what the market would be for Gallup. Toxic Tom says, Mo, surely the people who traded away a proven wide receiver one, a way to overpay it for an often injured, overpaid one-trick pony, will admit their mistake, right? Says Toxic. By releasing him, do you mean? Or like, do you want an apology in a presser? Because they're going to release him, in my opinion. I don't see the Cowboys bringing him back. Unless maybe it's on a different contract. Like, could that happen? Could they agree to a new deal? You never know. Inez says, I agree to release Gallup. Holly says, I don't think Michael Gallup is bad. I just think that he doesn't work well in our system. I think he will be all right somewhere else. Holly, you might be right on that. And the thing with him right now, though, is the money. I absolutely think that is it. I do believe there are teams out there that need wide receiver help badly enough to where you could see Gallup fighting for a number 3 spot or even a number 2 spot. But I think it's a price tag that doesn't help out Michael Gallup in this year specifically, where you are set to pay him $8.5 million in 2024. He's got a $4 million injury guarantee that will vest on March 18th. He's set to gain $10.5 million in 2025 and then the same in 2026. What does work out for him, though, is that maybe there is no guaranteed salary anymore in his deal, but it's still large enough money for me, for somebody who, again, did not have three plus catches games. Like, there were only 2 games in all of the 2023 season where he caught more than 3 passes. And that's, and there was a game where he was targeted 10 times and he had 3 catches, right? Like, Gallup is just at a point where he's not bad. I'll agree to that. I wouldn't use a bad adjective for him, but it's the money that doesn't justify. I mean, it's a production that doesn't justify the price tag at this point for Gallup and the Cowboys and other NFL teams. I will say again, I think the most likely outcome is for him to be released post-June 1st, and the Cowboys will open up a good chunk of salary cap space by the time the summer comes around. But I will say, I'm intrigued about one possibility that a Tyler Browning from A to Z Sports Dallas laid out in a recent article. So, as somebody already mentioned, the Broncos finally traded Jerry Jeudy. I never thought I would see the day. I feel like a Jerry Jeudy trade has been being teased pretty much the day after he was drafted by the Broncos. And obviously, I'm exaggerating, but that's how it felt to me, just because I feel like we've been doing the Jerry Jeudy dance for a few years now. Well, finally traded. Jerry Jeudy is out of Denver. And there are only 3 players since that 2021 draft class that remain in Denver. So this is a team that has extremely changed, and they're not going to go into win now mode after releasing Russell Wilson, right? They're not going for Kirk Cousins, according to Diana Rossini from The Athletic. So that is ruled out as well. You're trading away Jerry Jeudy. And one of those 3 players that remain there is Cortland Sutton. And Tyler Browning laid out a trade idea, which I would deem as unlikely based on how the Cowboys operate. But he laid out an idea where he would send Michael Gallup to the Broncos in exchange of Cortland Sutton and a 4th-round pick from the 2025 NFL Draft. I'm not sure that would be the cost for somebody like Sutton. It might be because of the deal that he's on, right? He's set to make $13 million in 2024, and $2 million are guaranteed. In 2025, he'll also make $13.5 million. So his deal is expensive enough to where that could be enough compensation for you to land Sutton. But that's a different trade. That's not a team buying Michael Gallup. That is the Cowboys buying Sutton and paying Michael Gallup plus draft compensation, which is very different context for a trade, right? And they might be up for it because Toxic says here Broncos tell you eat their asses and hang up the phone. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure because we're not talking about a contending team. We're talking about a team that is just selling their house and getting ready for a rebuild. And for the Broncos, it's more about getting rid of the deal more than anything else. So I do not think that's an insane trade proposal from Tyler Browning. I actually think it would make some sense. It's just a question as to how much in a rebuild mode are the Broncos right now? Like, are they so deep into rebuild that they're willing to move on from Judy and Sutton in the same offseason? That's a question to me. Right? A trade like that, man, I would love it. I think it's an interesting idea from Tyler Browning. I don't think the Cowboys would go down a similar route because I don't think the Cowboys will be buyers in the offseason like that. Like, I don't think they will pull off a trade of this sort like that, especially not after giving away the 4th round pick for 2024 for Trey Lance. Like, I would be shocked if Dallas goes on and trades back-to-back 4th rounders into consecutive years. Like, that would be something uncharacteristic of them, right? Sutton is fun, though. I would love Sutton, and he does fit that Gallup type of player where he's an X who can shine in the contested catches more so than Gallup recently, of course. And man, Sutton was half of the Broncos offense last year, where Russell Wilson was just checking it down 3 plays in a row, and then the 4th one was Cortland Sutton making an insane catch. Like, that was the Broncos offense in 2023, so that would be fun to watch. Gregory says we should trade Trey Lance and Gallup and a 4th rounder for Patrick Surtain. Now that would be fun. Now we're getting into blockbuster trade territory, which we know won't happen, but that would be fun as hell. Like, I would love for that to happen just for the chaos of it. But yeah, long story short, expect Gallup to be released. I don't think there's a team out there that will make an offer for him in the trade market. So I would expect Gallup to be released. And I do have some concerns about the wide receiver depth because Jalen Tolbert is certainly the favorite to be the number 3 wide receiver for the Cowboys in 2024. But I think the depth is not good enough. And Tolbert is also not locked in enough for me to act like I wouldn't like the Cowboys to seek some depth or seek some other outside wide receiver help. And I was going to talk about Kendrick Bourne on today's show as somebody that I would love Dallas to target. He is now going back to the Patriots, though, as per 10 minutes ago. So we can rule that out. But there are some free agents out there that will not be getting a lot of money that I would love the Cowboys looking at. And I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas does target a wide receiver in the middle rounds or even in the 1st round of the NFL draft, depending on how the board falls. But people have talked a lot about Adonai Mitchell. I think he's somebody that could interest the Cowboys. But I just think wide receiver is one of those underrated needs for Dallas at this stage of the offseason. But anyways, let's move on a little bit here from the wide receivers. And let's keep talking some free agency. I know there's a lot of questions. Gloria over on Facebook asked if the Cowboys are keeping Pollard. I think they could, but it will take a depressed running back market for that to happen. It's flooded. It's a little bit flooded heading into 2024. That's the truth. That's the reality of the situation. You've got Derrick Henry, Pollard, Jacobs, Eckler, Barkley. There are so many running backs available in the market that I think we could see a depressed market. And if Pollard is closer to the $5 million price tag, and maybe I'm going way too low, but that's more or less what I think it would take for the Cowboys to bring back Pollard. So I would say 50-50 on that, but it will depend on what the price tags are for the running backs. Is if he's cheap enough, I could see the Cowboys bringing him back, and I wouldn't hate it. But I don't see them paying top dollar for him at all. It's gonna be interesting though. But speaking of the running game, one of the most intriguing stories of this free agency period to me from the start has been Tyler Viadish. And I've laid out this dilemma that the Cowboys are facing before by pointing out how you could pay Tyler Viadish and bring him back, but maybe how that potentially stopped you from upgrading the position through the NFL draft, where you've got players that can play center at a high level or guards that could hypothetically learn how to snap the football. And, it's an interesting offensive line draft. However, when we last discussed this, we didn't know Tyron Smith was not coming back. And the Tyron Smith decision, the decision to let him walk, basically, might complicate things for Viadish and for the Cowboys. Because suddenly, you're not looking at creating a question mark at center. You're looking at creating a question mark at center, left guard, and left tackle, the three of them. And I mentioned left guard because with Tyron Smith gone, as of today, Tyler Smith is your likely left tackle. That could change if the Cowboys end up taking one at 24th overall in the NFL draft. But there is no guarantee that they will. There's no guarantee that they'll find somebody at 24th. So as of right now, if the Cowboys were to line up and play a football game today, Tyler Smith would be your left tackle, right? And assume that for now, TJ Vaz would probably be your left guard. And that is a downgrade in those two positions as compared to last year. You're downgrading at left tackle and you're downgrading at left guard. And if Tyler Viadish is out of the equation as well, then you would have a major question mark there too. You would basically have one well-established lineman in your front five if you let Tyler Viadish walk. Because Zach Martin, right guard, even though he's past his prime, is still Zach Martin. Like, I'm not sweating the right guard position. I'm sweating Terrence Steele after watching him in 2023. Hell yeah. We can talk about that being an injury thing, but I got to see it to believe it, right? Like, I got to see a healthier version of Terrence Steele easing my concerns before I'm okay with the right tackle spot. And that is such a different situation than just switching up the center position, right? Like, suddenly we have question marks everywhere because the Cowboys are not bringing back Tyron Smith. So I do wonder, how does this impact, or how does the Tyron Smith decision, impact whatever the Cowboys decide with Viadish? Because legal tampering period begins tomorrow. Viadish is going to be talking to other teams tomorrow unless a deal gets done pretty early. And now finding an inside lineman in the second round or the third round is a little bit different because you're likely being forced to pick a left tackle at 24th overall no matter what, or a guard to take over Tyler Smith if Tyler is kicking outside. Like, the Cowboys have made their lives up front so damn complicated, in my opinion, with the Tyron Smith decision, because it's not the same to be looking for depth, to be looking for somebody to develop behind Tyron, than to need to find a starter non-negotiably ahead of the NFL draft. So another interesting aspect of this is the centers that are going to be, or that are projected to be available in free agency. Per PFF, Tyler Viadish is not even top 5 among the centers. No, he's actually the 5th one. Sorry. So he's the 5th best center according to PFF's free agency list of centers that are going to be available. So could the Cowboys just wait it out and try to find somebody else, maybe somebody cheaper, and maybe also downgrade at center based on the way that they have done things? I wouldn't be surprised. Could they find an upgrade though? Could they maybe get somebody like Lloyd Cushenberry? And I don't know if everyone will agree that he would be an upgrade, but I would look at Lloyd Cushenberry as an upgrade over Viadish. I'm not gonna lie. David Lawrence is mentioning Mitch Morse, who the Buffalo Bills recently released, and then the was it the Jacksonville Jaguars who also released their center. So there's suddenly a lot of center availability in free agency, and I'm not sure if the Cowboys are gonna either look for an upgrade or they are gonna look for somebody cheaper than Tyler Viadic that could maybe allow them to target a center in the second round of the NFL draft. Maybe the guy from Georgia, right? Maybe Graham Barton, and they teach him how to snap, right? Like there's many possibilities for Dallas in that way. But are they gonna take the upgrade route in free agency first, or are they gonna take the let me find somebody cheap route, or maybe somewhere in the middle and just stick with Tyler Viadic? It's gonna be one of the most, I think, out of the remaining decisions for Dallas, it's one that will teach us the most. Here's what I mean by that. If the Cowboys let Stephon Gilmore walk in free agency, I can fully understand why. Like he drove up his price with the last couple of years with the way that he's played. The Cowboys do have Daron Bland. They do have Trayvon Diggs, who they just paid. So, like, I can see the logic behind that, and it's like a close decision where maybe they couldn't control all of it. But whatever direction they take at center, I believe will tell us a lot about how serious they are about the 2024 NFL season. Are they looking for the upgrade, or are they just trying to get by until the NFL draft and maybe get as many starting caliber, replacement caliber players on the roster? And Gregory says Jackson Powers Johnson is away. The problem is if he gets there right at 24th. The problem is that. Pablo says Mauricio, have faith. The Cowboys are elite at finding O linemen in the draft. Dudes like Connor Williams, who they let walk, Connor McGovern, who they let walk, Tyler Smith, who they have messed up his development by not choosing where to play him and clearly do not have a plan for. Doug Free, etc., have been drafted and been solid starters at one point in the NFL. Pablo, I fully agree with you and their ability to pick linemen. But you see where my issue is at. It's not that. Like, my issue with them is not that they cannot find linemen in the NFL draft. My real issue is that what is the plan? What is the damn plan they have? Because they don't seem to have one right now up front. You're going into the 2024 season, and I don't think they know who their tackle is and their guard is yet. I don't think they do. Toxic says, I cannot remember the last time the Dallas Cowboys traded up in the first round. Was it Mo Claiborne? Yeah, it must have been Mo Claiborne in 2012. Because we recently talked about the draft where they have traded down. And we talked about 2013. We talked about 2021 with Micah. So, yeah, Mo Claiborne is definitely the last time they traded up. Anthony says, but whoever they go and get, either in the first round or the second round of the draft in the left tackle or center, I hope there will be a top 5, top 10 best college football players, says Anthony. BPA, baby. I agree. Like, and that's part of the issue with, moving on from Tyler Viadic. You're probably forcing yourself to pick linemen back to back in the NFL draft, or if not back to back, like, again, you're getting to the draft with must draft needs instead of being able to approach it through a best player available philosophy. It's just a not optimal way to build the team. But anyways, we'll see what happens. There's definitely some names to watch out in center for the free agency, though. But the biggest question is, do they seek an upgrade, or do they settle for whoever they can find in the second wave or third wave of free agency? We'll find out. Now, another position that will tell the story, though, about the Cowboys 2024 free agency, and you already know where I'm going with this, the real position that will also could potentially maybe show some willingness to invest money into this team is linebacker. Linebacker is the one position this year that if you need, and the Cowboys do need, as you know, linebackers, this is the position that you have no excuse for not going and getting somebody. And I'm not necessarily talking about, go and get Patrick Quinn and make him one of the highest paid linebackers in the league. I don't think you need to go down that route. Like, I would love Patrick Quinn on the team. I would. Like, I know he's the mainstream top guy in free agency. I believe he has a case for it, but he's going to be quite expensive. So I understand if the Cowboys don't want to go and sign Patrick Quinn. I think it might be smart not to do so because you're not overpaying, maybe. But there are so many linebackers in free agency. And sure, there's a few guys in the NFL draft that are pretty attractive, like Peyton Wilson. Who wouldn't like Peyton Wilson in the second round? Who wouldn't like Adrian Cooper in the second round? Jeremiah Trotter. Who wouldn't like the Notre Dame guy in the third, fourth round? Like, obviously, there are some interesting names for the NFL draft. But if you get there and you have not signed a linebacker by then, or two in the Cowboys case, honestly, you have already failed, man. You have already failed. So let me read you a list of the guys that are making it. Patrick Quinn is making free agency. Frankie Luvu is making free agency. Lavonte David, Jordan Brooks from Seattle, Bobby Wagner, Jerome Baker. No, Jerome Baker, I'm actually not sure if he's already re-signed. Aziz Al-Shair, who's a perfect fit for Dallas. Devin White. Like, there are so many names making free agency that you have no excuse not getting at least one or two of these guys. And personally, I would love going the Aziz Al-Shair route. Balanced player who signed a one-year prove-it deal with the Tennessee Titans last year after being a backup with the 49ers, right? Maybe being a little bit buried in the linebacker depth chart, gets to the Titans on a one-year deal to prove it, and he pretty much does prove it, right? He was one of the best linebackers in the league in 2023, and he won't break the bank for you. Like, PFF projects him at a $6.75 million deal. It's just somebody that you're not going to sign because he's asking to break the bank or something like that. You could get Aziz Al-Shair and immediately improve your run defense just with his presence at the second level. There's Frankie Luvu, who might be more expensive, the Carolina guy who is also very aggressive running downhill, but who can also be involved in the pass rush. And we know Mike Zimmer loves to get those linebackers involved in the pass rush. And Frankie Luvu, for the most part, rushed from the edge, but I'm pretty certain that if you get him on the A-gap stuff that Mike Zimmer likes to run, he'll also be able to get to the QB. Since 2021, 9.5 sacks for Frankie Luvu, which might not sound like a lot, but remember, we're talking about an off-ball linebacker here. He's been pretty efficient with it. He gets pressures. I am all for Frankie Luvu. However, that might be a more expensive signing. I've seen PFF project him at $10 million per year. I know ATZ Sports also projects him somewhere along those lines. So we are talking about a different kind of free agent that I would absolutely be fired up for if they do get him. But say that you get one of these two guys, or you get Jordan Brooks, who is one of the top linebackers in these free agency classes, in this free agency class also. But you could also get somebody like Lavonte David on board, and he might not be very expensive. Like, you can get Lavonte David on a one-year deal, little risk, high reward, and you get a starter on that defense. And remember, the Cowboys are not necessarily looking for the all-pro caliber season out of a linebacker. Obviously, that would be great, but the Cowboys at this point have no starting linebackers on the team. Damon Clark is probably the one guy that he could be betting on for 2024. Because I've talked about this too with the Marvin Overshown. He's exciting and everything, but there is no, like, the Marvin Overshown has to be the $20 bill that you find in the back pocket of your pants after taking them to the laundry, right? Like, it's got to be that nice surprise in August where you get to training camp and it's like, oh, damn, Overshown is still it. I can start him. He's got to be that guy. He cannot be the guy that you bet on because you have not seen him in the regular season. He's coming off of an ACL injury. You cannot, that he cannot be your plan A. He's got to be your plan B, and let's see if he's the guy who I think he is. Got to wait it out like that. So yeah, man, I do think even if the Cowboys get one linebacker, I wouldn't be happy enough. I would bang the table for them to get two linebackers in this market, in this economy, right? Of linebackers where there are plenty of options to choose from. And then you could add some in the NFL draft that you feel like it, of course. All right, guys, let's see what you guys have to say, though, in the chat. We're talking free agency. We're letting out those final free agency thoughts before the chaos tomorrow. Tomorrow is a day where you know, Toxic is making fun of me for using the laundry as an example. Don't you hate it when the butler forgets to do laundry? Man. But I was saying, Monday is a day where you just see the cool kids go at it in free agency and you're just waiting for the Cowboys to sign or re-sign Chuma Edoga, right? Like, that's more or less how Cowboys fans experience free agency. But we'll see if Dallas gets involved with these linebackers. They should. I know we don't get our hopes up with the Cowboys going all in, and we don't get our hopes up with the Cowboys, like, for example, getting Patrick Quinn. I'm not going to do that. But I do think they got to get one of these linebackers. Like, I would be surprised if they don't. I'll say that because the need is so important for Dallas, and the market is so swamped with supply that they gotta get at least one linebacker that we're happy with. You know who I would be extremely happy with if they get Aziz Al-Shaair and they get Eric Kendricks? Like, that will make me happy. Eric Kendricks will be cheap, in my opinion, like really cheap. And he can help teach the Mike Zimmer defense. He can help adapt this unit quickly to the way that Zimmer wants it to look. And he can start. He can play some decent football. Aziz Al-Shaair and Eric Kendricks, totally doable for Dallas. Like, extremely doable. There's still the restructures that they can make happen. There's still the extensions that they could make happen if they wanted to. Like, all of this is doable for Dallas. Let's see if they do. Let's see here. King says, y'all can't forget about Henry. I don't know. I'll say this, man. I'll say this. I don't know. I'm not betting on it, but I'm also not completely opposed to the possibility of the Cowboys getting Derrick Henry, honestly. And not because I could see them paying top dollar for Henry, because I could see Henry not getting the offers that we think he's going to be getting, basically. And that's not me thinking the Cowboys are going to do things differently. That's me thinking the running back could very well be way worse. The running back market could be way worse and way cheaper than we expect it to be. Because all of these NFL teams played hardball with the running backs last year. It could get uglier. In 2024. That being said, though, I'm not betting on Henry signing with the Cowboys. I'll say that. I'm not betting on it. And I did write for A-to-Z Sports about how Dallas not meeting with Dak Prescott's agent meant not meeting with Henry's agent at the combine, because that's who represents Henry. It's the same guy. It's Todd France. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I guess additional thoughts just looking at the free agency list here for the Cowboys very quickly. I would absolutely love it if they find a way to re-sign Gilmore. I really would. Gilmore will sign for what? Somewhere around $8 million for 1 year, I guess. You can do that if you're Dallas. And I would much rather have Bland playing inside than outside. I would love it if they can get Gilmore on board. Jaron Kears, I think, is extremely gone. Like, there's no way he comes back. Armstrong and Fowler, one of the two, it would be ideal if you can bring back. I don't think they'll be able to keep both of them, but we'll see. We'll see. Mark Aaron says, so who are we talking about tomorrow night? We'll see, man. Hopefully the news cycle gives us something. With the Cowboys, though, it might be optimistic to ask for that, but we'll come up with something for tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, that will be it for me tonight here on ATC Sports Dallas Prime Time. Hit the like button for me. If you enjoyed the show, remember that every like puts this show in front of more and more Cowboys fans. Man, I'm so glad I could talk to you without being sick like I was all of last week. This is much easier. This is much more fun for me. So I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone in the comments. I appreciate you and the feedback. And I'll see you tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Central. Have a great Sunday night. Bye-bye. Let's see who wins Best Picture. It's gonna be Oppenheimer, but let's watch. Bye-bye.